I paint my nails so you have something nice to look at while I'm flipping you off. Do you ever feel like a plastic bag? I like to steal. My muscles are big, but so is my heart. Some say that I'm forgetful, but what they don't know is that I'm forgetful. This is the Real House Husbands of the Coast.
I thought we were in Connecticut.
Hello, my Boardwalk babes. Your father's brought you a swatching video. It's weird that I'm sitting.
It is weird if you lean back like that.
I'm on a boat. I get seasick.
You also look like you're like being choked by your sweater.
I don't know what you mean.
Holo Taco just released their Coastal Creme collection consisting of 8 new cremes.
Everybody says cream.
I don't want to put cream on my finger. Maybe it's because I'm lactose intolerant, but I do not want to put that on my fingers. Creme.
Creme.
Cream. If you purchase the whole set, they come with a cute tote bag for a limited time or while supplies last. But it will probably already be sold out by the time we get this video out.
Goodbye.
However, the polishes have joined Holo Taco's full-time lineup. But also, can we talk about how morbid the back of this is?
Have some fun before you die.
Like, oh, okay, Christine. Do you know when I'm gonna die?
Christine is a data analyst. She probably knows when the world's gonna end.
Absolutely. Today I'll be swatching the new collection, comparing them to things in my collection, and showing a really easy nail art. But before we start swatching, I noticed something with the PR card that I don't normally talk about, but I wanted to share. In these pictures, but also the website listing, I noticed that these polishes seem brighter and more saturated than they do in real life. I don't think this is nefarious because I also noticed this in my own footage, but I wanted to share the discrepancy as I saw it for every polish in this lineup. But one other thing that I wanted to point out is that I also noticed that the polishes seemed a little duller in the bottle than they do on the nail. So keep these things in mind while I'm showing off the collection. Anyways, I hope you're packed and ready to darty on a boat, so let's get into these swatches. Up first is Boardwalk Behaviour. This is described as a medium bright pink creme. Now the first thing I thought of is this feels like a muted spiritual successor to Icon on Board, but not an acrylic formula. And the second thing I thought of is, thank goodness this is a creme collection and not a acrylic collection, because damn, Holo Taco makes good cremes.
I saw a comment on, I think, Reddit of someone saying that they wish that this was a Crelly collection.
No.
Well, you just don't like Holo Taco's Crellies.
No, I do not like Holo Taco's Crellies. I don't think that they've perfected that yet. Cremes?
But that means they have to keep working on it.
Yeah, but I don't want them to keep trying.
If at first you don't succeed, give up.
However, once I turned down the ISO, it was more apparent that it needed a second coat. But regardless, the coverage was quite stellar and what I've come to expect from the brand with their creme formula. With the second coat, it got to what I would consider full coverage, but it does look a little odd on the sides of my nail, which could be due to the formula being slightly thicker or an uneven application on my part. I hope you can't hear that. But it's nothing that a top coat wouldn't smooth out. And I'm not going to show this for every polish, but putting this directly next to the card, I think it's pretty clear that something's up. Now, I don't want to call it outright shade, but
those are different colors.
I saw several comments comparing some of these polishes to the Holo Taco jellies, and I think that Boardwalk Behaviour fills a similar space to Glossed and Found, however it's a more muted and brighter pink, which is why I grabbed Icon on Board, but now that they're next to each other, that's too much of a hot pink to be a dupe.
That's so interesting that you say that, because I saw comments of people saying that they thought that Icon on Board was like basically a dupe.
That's why I grabbed it, but no, they're very different colors next to each other. I think that is something that we also need to talk about. I think that there's a lot of people in Holo Taco's comments who comment before they get all the information. And I see a lot of people who say that things exactly the same, why are they releasing the same thing? But haven't seen the two of them next to each other. And so there are slight differences. They have a point, they're similar color stories, but... So quick disclaimer, all of these polishes performed pretty phenomenally.
Absolutely
phenomenal. So my rating scale is really about my own personal preference and how unique it is within my collection. Boardwalk Behaviour is in an in-between shade, but is also in a shade that I would personally never turn to. So this is gonna get 3 times Rosie Stirred the Pot out of 5. And in case you can't tell, we just started watching Housewives, and the first one that we ever saw was Rhode Island because a friend showed it to us. And now we're kind of obsessed. We're watching Salt Lake City now. Who should we watch next? Moving on, we have Summer Scandal. This is described as a bright Coral Creme. On the first swipe, this one applied slightly thinner, yet more even than the previous polish. So while it definitely needs a second coat, it's a much more even application overall. That is if you ignore the cotton thread that I entombed in my nail. While a second coat could have fixed this, let me just try to remove this and start over. We'll fast forward through the first coat.
Wow.
On the second coat, the second time, we got to full coverage. Now, the color is described as a bright coral, but I think I'd call it almost a neon coral, as this is so vibrant. Honestly, this was the polish where I noticed that it looked more vibrant on the nail than it did on the bottle, and it was just when I started noticing this about the collection overall. The first thing I thought of when I saw this polish is that it reminded me of the Flores Guava by Holo Taco, as that is a similar coral creme. However, when directly next to each other, Summer Scandal is a slightly less saturated and brighter coral. So while they aren't dupes, they aren't different enough that I need to pick up this if I already had the Flores Guava. What actually seems closer is Watermelon Crush by Prism Parade and Boozy Brunch by Cirque. They both have a similar saturation, however these two are slightly more neon than Summer Scandal. Also, quick note, One Melon Followers is another Holo Taco polish that I saw people say this was similar to. However, that's one of the few Holo Taco cremes that I just don't own. So if you pick up Summer Scandal and also have One Melon Followers, this is me formally requesting a comparison pic within our community tab, which if you didn't know that we have this, it's a place where you can post your manicures and we can just hype each other up, so I'll see you there. In finishing up this polish, if I was Linree's husband, I don't think I would have been able to see the differences of any of the polishes that I had in this lineup. So while I really like the color, it's just not really that unique to me. Which means this polish is gonna get 3 slam pigs out of 5. Moving on, we have Serving Sherbet. No.
Sherbert. She already done had
Bursted.
Sherberted.
Well, that's when you trust a fart. Moving on, we have Serving Sherbert. This is described as a light salmon pink. Now, like the last polish, it applied fairly evenly with a pretty great coverage. But I do want to note that I did have to wipe off my brush mid-application as there was a cotton fiber that wanted to repeat the scandal. Summer Scandal.
A hot new bombshell
Enters the villa. You know, we've never watched more than the first episode of that.
Yeah, there's a new season that started recently.
I don't care. So when I had to get more polish on the brush, this could be why this covered even better, potentially being a one coater if I did a slightly better job on the sides of my nail. Now, I do disagree with the color description, as I don't think it's as much of a salmon as I think it's more of the color of raw chicken. Like, don't get me wrong, it's a really nice neutral pink with amazing opacity that I think a lot of people will love, but it just kind of looks like what I'd imagine McDonald's chicken nuggets look like before they're fried.
You're really selling this polish hard.
I think it's because Serving Sherbet has a touch of orange in it that pulls it out of a pink territory and into a chickeny one. As putting it next to some of Holo Taco's other pinks, it does look a little bit peachier in comparison. So regardless of its fleshy nature, it does stand apart from What Do You Pink and Pinky Swear, making it unique in my collection.
How close was this to a flesh nail?
It wasn't my flesh, it was chicken flesh.
It's someone else's flesh? Do you think it would be my flesh?
Bagok. The Muppets 2011 movie. Now, while this one is unique in my collection, it's not really a color that I love.
Is that because it looks like raw chicken?
No, it's because it's pink. It's like that perfect pink that I just don't care about. But like, do you see the chicken? You're gonna bagok at my chicken finger?
I'm bagocking.
Oh, remember Burger King chicken fries?
They weren't that good.
They were.
And you want to know
that
what's good at Burger King? Nothing. It's Burger King.
It's the dollar store. How good could it be? Therefore, Serving Sherbet is gonna get 3 serving salmonellas out of 5. Swoosh. Moving on, we have Creamsicle Coast. This is described
Can you
as...
say that not so weirdly? Creamsicle.
Creamsicle.
You said creamsicle.
Moving on, we have Creamsicle Coast.
You're putting emphasis on sickle.
Yeah, like sickle cell anemia. Moving on, we have Creamsicle Coast.
Thank you. That was wonderful. That was perfect, amazing, beautiful, stunning, gorgeous.
Creamsicle Coast.
Creamsicle.
Why was this not Creamsicle Coast?
Because it's not called a cremsicle.
But it's the cremes. This is described as a peachy yellow, and this applied nice. With just a few swipes, it seemed like it got to what I would consider full coverage.
Is that the cotton thread that you found on all of your nails?
No, it was a mustache hair. This is a pause though, because we're gonna listen to the audio in the video. I don't remember what happened, but I wrote down camera audio, so I hope it's funny enough to include, otherwise... I did paint a second coat for consistency purposes, but damn, this one is essentially a one coater. It was buttery smooth and is such a nice yellow-leaning creamsicle color that I just want to devour. As for comparisons, I saw some comments saying this looks similar to butterscotch hop, and while I can see the similarity, it's really a creamy orange, while I'd call butterscotch hop more of a mac and cheese. What it's actually the closest to is Acidic by Mooncat, as it's nearly the exact same color, if ever so slightly more saturated. So while these aren't technically dupes, I wouldn't see the need to have both in my collection. Here we are again. I fucking love this color, but it's just not unique in what I have. Am I gonna need to bleep fucking?
Oh.
Which is actually reminding me I should probably wear Acidic again. Anyways, this is gonna get 3 creamsicle bars from your local vegan grocery store out of 5, which I still haven't tried yet. Excuse me. He's activated.
Creamsicle bar. You're making so many gross mouth sounds. You chew so moistly.
And next up, we have Saltwater Taffy. This is described as a vibrant aqua mint creme. However, I'd probably call it a seafoam, but that's commentary for later. As for the coverage, this was on the thinner side, however not to the point where 2 coats didn't work. Which, if you ignore my wobbly application using my left hand, it came together nicely with those 2 coats. Now, while the color descriptor is a little contested, I think this one perfectly encapsulates the name and theme of the collection, as I think this is spot on with actual saltwater taffy. That said, my brattiest complaint with this polish is that this is the only one that doesn't have alliteration in its name. We have Serving Sherbert, Midnight Marina, Pier Pressure, and then Saltwater Taffy. Anyways, I digress. As for the comparisons, my actual biggest issue is how this polish relates to Seafoam Home. That was retired a little bit ago, and it's not that sus, but the similarities really can't be ignored. Saltwater Taffy is essentially a more saturated version of the same color, which I swear my bottle of Seafoam Home used to look similar to. I actually found some pictures of myself wearing Seafoam Home from 5 years ago, so if you ignore me in twink mode, it looks like my bottle has significantly faded since then. Which is not Holo Taco's fault, as polish fades over time, but it did look more similar, if not slightly bluer. So while these aren't dupes, especially now, it does feel like a reimagining of color. I think this is the first one in my lineup that stands out the most. And I do appreciate that it's a more saturated version of Seafoam Home, but I'm not entirely certain I would have purchased this as it's similar to something I already have. So I think this is gonna get 3.5 ASMR candy pulling videos out of 5. Moving on, we have Pier Pressure. This is described as a bright orange teal, orange, glad I didn't say banana. This is described as a bright
OSHA violation.
This is described as a bright ocean teal creme. Now this one had the best coverage so far. At first I thought this was confidently a one coater, but when filming the finger wiggle, I swear I could see a ghost of a visible nail line, so 2 coats it is. With that, the ghostly visible nail line is gone, and we have this beautiful smooth teal creme, which, oh, this is a nice color. But it does also look a little familiar. The very first thing I thought of was David's Teal, which was a limited edition teal creme. But when actually putting these 2 next to each other, David's Teal is a lot greener than I remember, so I wouldn't call them a dupe. But they do definitely fill a similar space in the creme rainbow, so it could be considered close enough for those who missed out on David's Teal. What it actually seems closest to is Meltdown from the Jelly launch. Meltdown is a teal jelly, and while it looks darker than Pier Pressure, that's because this swatch stick probably has 5 coats on it by now, darkening the overall color. However, I think the teal saturation is the same between the 2, so it's nice to have a creme version of this color for those who hate jellies like myself. Now, I loved David's Teal, but I always get so intimidated when using polishes that are limited edition. But I think I do actually like the slightly bluer direction that Pier Pressure has in comparison to David's Teal. That's probably why it's called an ocean teal. And once again, we have another teal canon event in Holo Taco's universe.
Has there been a single launch this year that has not had a teal in it?
So this one's gonna get 4 times Rula was sick and couldn't join the other housewives out of 5.
I'm sick.
Everything just hurt. You know what hurts? Your marriage. Moving on, we have Midnight Marina. This is described as a bleached indigo blue creme. Now this one had the best coverage, as this one really feels like a one-coater. I don't see any hint of visible nail line, but what I do notice is how much more vibrant this looks on camera than it does in real life. It really feels more like a periwinkle than it does a blue, and in no way does this feel indigo to me. Unless that's the bleaching? But that's why I grabbed some of my more blue or periwinkle colors for this comparison. When next to them, Midnight Marina is far too blue to be similar to things like Peri Social or Well Wishes. However, once again, the camera is making this color look more vibrant and closer to Doom Scroll by Cirque. But on my phone camera, it looks a little closer to what it looks like in real life. It has this tiniest touch of purple, which pulls it into a periwinkle direction. But in the end of the day, I still think that Doom Scroll by Cirque is probably the closest, as it matches the vibrancy quite well. But I don't know if I would have purchased this, as I already have Doom Scroll. That said, Holo Taco is slightly cheaper per milliliter than Cirque, and this isn't limited edition, even though Cirque's limited edition tend to stick around a lot longer than Holo Taco's limited editions. Oh, but also the coverage was so good and I can't ignore that. So that's why I think that Midnight Marina is gonna get 4 times Marina Summers deserved to win Drag Race out of 5. If I had a nickel for every time Marina Summers lost Drag Race when she should have won, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but weird that it happened twice. And finishing up the collection, we have Dockside Drama. This is described as a bright fuchsia purple creme. Like the others in the collection, this one also had pretty good coverage. However, I wouldn't say it's as great as the previous 2 polishes, as this one could benefit from a second coat. However, you could potentially get away with one if you were in a pinch. With the second coat, it came together into what I would call a deep, bright fuchsia. However, this color really just feels very Barney the Dinosaur coated. For comparisons, I grabbed a bunch of purples in different saturations and tones. I think it fits really nicely between Prism Parade's Gummy Bear and Cirque's Pitaya Jelly, as it has the neon brightness while also having a little bit of that red tone. However, it is ultimately unique within my lineup. But once again, we run into another polish that is unique, but just something I wouldn't turn to. Which means this is gonna get 3 You Are Never Homeless out of 5. Before I show the collection altogether, I needed to do something with my thumbs, but I didn't want to just pick one polish. That's why I decided to do a mush nail art using all of the colors on that hand. Mush. The first step is to apply a liquid latex barrier around the nail, which I forgot to film, but y'all really didn't need to see me transform into a zombie from The Last of Us using my crusty old liquid latex. Next up, you paint the lightest color as the base. Then you drip the polish onto a silicone mat in a random arrangement. Next, you mush the stamping tool into the blobs, moving it around a little bit before mushing it onto the nail. This kind of looks like shit. I don't know if I like this.
The Swatch.
Yeah, it kind of looks like shit. And what's nice is that if it doesn't look good, you can always go in with more polish on the stamping tool to fix any large areas of the same color. For my other hand, since I ran out of liquid latex, I tried painter's tape because desperate times call for desperate measures. So once again, I loaded the drops of polish on my silicone mat, blobbed the stamping tool down, and then onto the nail. Finally, I peeled off the tape. Oh? Is it working? Oh my god, William. Yeah, the tape is working. Liquid latex who? Oh! This worked a lot better than I was expecting, and I low-key consider doing this again instead of liquid latex in the future. Anyways, here's the whole collection altogether. Oh, I'm gonna get high from the fumes. Oh. Oh. Why are you filming me?
Is this because I yelled at you to trim your nose hair, so now you're showing the entire internet that I also have nose hair?
Or the eyebrow hair? Or the acne on my forehead? Go ahead, give me my 13th reason. Anyways, here's the whole collection altogether. I really like the overall color palette, as I can pick up their intent to make a summery rainbow collection. Why do we keep doing this? No. But where I think these really shine is the formula, as they all apply beautifully and were all 2, sometimes 1 coaters. Now, one of the benefits of working on a video after launch is I can see what people's overall reaction is to the collection. And I'm seeing a lot of comments that these polishes are similar to things in Holo Taco's lineup, especially some discontinued ones. And after swatching, I think I agree, but I also do see what Holo Taco is potentially trying to do here. It seems like they're trying to make polishes for new customers in addition to polishes for their OG customers. Who else also has their launch box? But I think a way they could have felt better for the original fans is if they called these polishes reimaginings, reformulations, or spiritual dupes. I noticed when painting some of the older polishes for comparisons that they were far thinner and were really before Holo Taco perfected their Creme formula. Which is why I'm ultimately glad that we have like 2.0s of some of these colors. But I wish that if that were the intent, or even part of the intent when releasing these polishes, that sentiment would have been shared with the audience, because it does feel a touch disingenuous. I know some brands release reformulations, and I think there would have been a better reception to these if that had been the case. But at the end of the day, they aren't exact dupes, as there are slight differences in undertone, saturation, and brightness. So it's really up to you to decide if they're different enough to justify purchasing in comparison to things in your current collection. But now that you've seen everything, let me know what you think. Do these polishes make you want to sail off into the sunset, or are they more of a shipwreck? And before we go, if you're interested in supporting us, you can join as a channel member using the link in the description below. So thank you to my Titan Wranglers, but an extra nautical coastal special shout out to the many members of the Silver Spurs Club. Anyways, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Bye. Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Bye.